Welcome to Hidden History. We're thrilled to have you here with us on this journey of exploration and discovery. This is a place where we delve into the unseen, the forgotten, the overlooked, those pockets of time that went unnoticed in the grand scale of human history. Like and subscribe for even more overlooked events in history that you won't find anywhere else. Have some hidden history you'd like for us to look into and share? Let us know in the comments. Now let's get to it. On the Italian peninsula's long and rich history, epochs of republican governments have risen and fallen. Among the earliest was the legendary Roman Republic, followed by the formidable medieval maritime republics. Across the centuries, Italian philosophers like Cicero and Niccolo Machiavelli forged the very principles of political science and republicanism. Yet it was Giuseppe Mazzini who reignited the republican flame in the 19th century. Mazzini, a passionate Italian nationalist steeped in the radical tradition, envisioned a republic rooted in social democracy, one driven by the ideals of liberty, independence and unity. Mazzini's dream would, however, encountered powerful adversaries. The cunning Piedmontese Prime Minister Camillo Benso, Count of Cavour, and the indomitable revolutionary leader Giuseppe Garibaldi emerged as key figures in the quest for Italian unity. Garibaldi, once a fervent Republican himself, ultimately set aside his ideals to embrace the cause of national unification. The successes of the Italian Risorgimento, the 19th century crusade for the unification of the Italian peninsula, would inevitably reach its pinnacle in 1861 with the election of the first Italian parliament. On March 17, 1861, Vittorio Emanuele II was proclaimed the king of a unified Italy, heralding a new epoch in the epic narrative of this storied land. From 1861 to 1946, Italy would be led by a constitutional monarchy. The parliament consisted of a senate with members appointed by the king and a chamber of deputies elected by census vote. Initially, only 2% of Italians had the right to vote, reflecting a highly restricted franchise. In the early years, the balance of power favoured the Senate, composed predominantly of nobles and industrial magnates. However, as the bourgeoisie and large landowners, keen on economic progress and social conservatism, gained influence, the Chamber of Deputies gradually assumed greater importance. The tide began to turn in 1882 with the introduction of a new electoral law that lowered the census requirement for voting. This expanded the electorate to over 2 million people, roughly 7% of the population. That same year saw the formation of the Italian Workers' Party, which would eventually evolve into the Italian Socialist Party in 1895. Around this time, the intransigent Republicans decided to engage in the kingdom's political life, establishing the Italian Republican Party. The aftermath of World War I brought a surge of political activity, with 4 major movements shaping Italy's political landscape. Among them, the reformist socialists and the Italian People's Party, both championing democratic development within the framework of the existing monarchical institutions. The other 2 movements, the Republican Party and the Maximalist Socialist Party, emerged instead to challenge it. In the 1919 elections, these 2 anti-monarchical movements, steeped in Republican ideology, secured a significant victory, obtaining 165 out of 508 seats in the Chamber of Deputies. However, at the onset of the interwar period, less than 30% of elected officials supported the establishment of a republican regime. Amidst this political landscape, Benito Mussolini's fascist movement began to rise. Fueled by the bitterness of the mutilated victory after World War I, fears of social unrest, and a rejection of the revolutionary Republican movement and Marxist ideologies, Mussolini's message began to resonate with a disenchanted populace. In October 1922, the political tides shifted dramatically. Fearing an escalation of Mussolini's march on Rome, King Vittorio Emanuele III appointed the fascist leader as Prime Minister. This pivotal moment marked the beginning of Mussolini's dictatorial regime. Vittorio Emanuele III's decision to allow Mussolini to form a government led to the domestication of parliament and the erosion of democratic institutions. However, the king's cooperation with Mussolini did not end there. In 1936, after the Second Italo-Ethiopian War, Vittorio Emanuele III controversially accepted the title of emperor. Shortly after, Italy's alliance with Nazi Germany, thus culminating in the kingdom's entry into World War II. These decisions would further entrench Italy into fascist rule that would not only define its monarchy, but set Italy on a path of conflict and turmoil that would shape its future for decades to come. On July 10, 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, landing in Sicily and marking the beginning of the end for Mussolini's fascist regime. On July 25, 1943, King Vittorio Emanuele III revoked Mussolini's mandate as Prime Minister and had him arrested, entrusting the government to Marshal Pietro Badoglio. The new government quickly sought an armistice with the Allies, resulting in the Armistice of Cassibile on September 8, 1943. The following day, as Rome remained under German occupation, the National Liberation Committee, CLN, was formed. This coalition united all parties and movements opposed to fascism and the German presence in Italy. On March 31, 1944, Palmiro Togliatti, the General Secretary of the Italian Communist Party, called for the formation of a government of national unity, temporarily setting its party's demands for the king's abdication. This strategic shift towards national unity prompted the parties within the National Liberation Committee to coalesce around a compromise. This compromise would be brokered by political leaders, party members, and members of the king's inner circle. Within the framework of this compromise, and upon the liberation of Rome on June 4, 1944, Vittorio Emanuele III was to proclaim his son Umberto Lieutenant General of the Kingdom of Italy. With this proclamation, the parties would take political control of the nation, steering Italy towards a new era of governance and unity. From June 1944 to December 1945, Italy saw the emergence of 3 consecutive provisional coalition governments. The first and most significant was led by Ivano Bonomi of the Italian Socialist Party. This government featured prominent anti-fascist liberals such as Carlo Sforza, Benedetto Croce, and Communist Party leader Palmiro Togliatti. Despite the immediate focus on governance, the question of Italy's institutional future loomed large. Many members of the National Liberation Committee were staunch Republicans who believed the monarchy, particularly Vittorio Emanuele III, bore significant responsibility for the fascist era. A crucial agreement was reached among the parties to address these institutional questions once the war ended. They proposed elections, an institutional referendum, and the formation of a constituent assembly. Meanwhile, significant progress was made on expanding democratic rights. On January 31, 1945, the Council of Ministers, led by Ivano Bonomi, issued a decree recognizing women's right to vote. This historic decree marked the achievement of universal suffrage, a goal previously attempted but never realized. On March 16, 1946, Prince Umberto decreed, as had been anticipated in 1944, that the future institutional form of the state would be determined by a referendum. This referendum would coincide with the election of a constituent assembly. The date for the referendum was set for June 2, 1946, a day that would become pivotal in shaping Italy's future. A month before the critical referendum, Vittorio Emanuele III abdicated in favor of his son, Umberto, who ascended to the throne as Umberto II. This act of abdication, dated May 9, 1946, was a strategic move by the monarchists. They believed that Umberto, being less entangled in Mussolini's rise to power and his regime, would be more palatable to the Italian people. Additionally, it is speculated that the Allied forces occupying Italy may have encouraged this transition. Following his abdication, Vittorio Emanuele III immediately left Italy for Alexandria in Egypt. Umberto II, now the new king, pledged to honour the upcoming referendum's outcome. On June 2nd and the morning of June 3rd, 1946, Italians cast their votes to decide between a monarchy and a republic. As the ballots were collected from across the nation and transported to Rome, the country awaited the results with bated breath. Initially expected on June 8th, the announcement was delayed due to missing data from some polling stations and the need to review numerous appeals regarding contested ballots. On June 10th, provisional results were announced, but the final official results were again delayed as the last details were meticulously examined. This period marked a decisive moment in Italy's history, determining the future governance and signalling the end of an era. On the night of June 12th, Prime Minister Alcide de Gasperi received a written communication from King Umberto II, who expressed his readiness to respect the electorate's verdict. Despite some advisors urging resistance, Umberto II chose to facilitate a peaceful transfer of power. He departed Italy on June 13th, even before the final results and rulings on the appeals by the monarchist party were settled. His early departure aimed to prevent potential clashes between monarchists and republicans. On June 18, 1946, the final results of the historic referendum were finally announced. Out of the 24,947,187 participants, which constituted 89% of the electorate, 54.3% voted in favour of establishing a republic. Conversely, 45.7% votes in support of the monarchy. Additionally, nearly 1.5 million ballots were annulled. The regional analysis revealed a nation divided. The North favoured the Republic with 66.2% of the vote, while the South leaned towards the monarchy with 63.8%. Umberto II went into exile in Cascais, Portugal, marking the end of a nearly 85-year reign of the Italian monarchy. This peaceful transition ushered in a new republican era for Italy, closing a significant chapter in the nation's storied history. There you have it. If you enjoyed this episode and want to continue this journey with us, then you can show your support by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It takes just a second, but it means the world to us. Your support helps us create more content and helps us reach more history enthusiasts like you. Till next time, when we explore even more hidden history.